So, welcome everyone. Let's start. And before we read the opening aspiration, let us just maybe take a moment to ingather ourselves within. Then we will start. Yeah, so if anyone would like to read the opening aspiration, please go ahead.
With boundless compassion and wisdom, I will work for the welfare of all. May we be free from hunger and discord and have joy and a world at peace.
Yeah, thank you. So, we have to today. There is still some bit of verse 5 which we were reflecting upon last time left. So we'll take up that and then we will see if there is time we can go on to verse 6. So just before we read the commentary on verse 5, valuing good friends, maybe we can read the verse also and then take up the passage which we have to start with. Yes. So, valuing good friends. If would anyone want to read the verse and then we'll read the commentary.
In bad company, the three poisons grow stronger. Listening, reflection, and meditation decline, and loving kindness and compassion vanish. To avoid unsuitable friends is the practice of a Bodhisattva.
Yeah, thank you. So we were here. If you can maybe read a couple of paragraphs here. So this we had, I think, read when I was in Italy. It was a large hospital. So it was about standing up for what she believed in. And then we can take it up from here if we cannot be an example today.
If he cannot be an example, then what? Even though we are not Buddhas radiating light, if we try to be a person of integrity, honesty, and kindness, people will be attracted to us. We don't even have to say a word. People will be drawn to us. The question of how easily we are influenced by the company we keep is important. As much as possible, we try to associate with friends whose values and way of life we truly appreciate and honor. They aren't necessarily Buddhists or even on any particular spiritual path, but they are good people. Then we begin to emulate that.
Yeah, thank you. So any reflections, they are welcome on this bit that was just read.
it says, even though we are not Buddhas radiating light, one thing that was coming to me is that we somehow can never see our own light, right? Like, and yet we are drawn to others who radiate, right? Who are kind or who are simple or who can live light. So, first of all, I am never a judge of where I am. And about the other thing, like, people will be drawn to us. Again, I think a lot of, I don't know, no, like, it's about, again, choicelessness, right? Why am I practicing integrity, or why am I honest or kind? Like, it starts with because I want to fit in, or because I think it's ethical, or because I want people to respect me or people to be drawn to me. But then once you actually truly start practicing this more and more, and the more darkness you see around yourself, it's a choicelessness that you want to be more and more and more and more. These small lies, that we, white lies that we call them, that they don't harm anyone. And I remember Nandini had shared a beautiful example too some time back. And yet, why, right? Why even a white lie? Why? And then those things don't escape you anymore. Like, even if you're saying something in you is standing and asking, but iski kya zarurat thi, right? Like, when we are messaging, somebody asks what you're doing or whatever, and we just write something to cover up something that just sounds more. We just don't say, like, we're just sitting in silence. No, we don't, we don't write that, for example. So just this drawn to us was interesting, that how we always need some carrot on the stick to practice, but if we are sincere, we see it's not needed anymore. A lot of times, yeah. So,
So this one also, this question of how easily we are influenced by the company we keep. And Mother says that we are always surrounded by the things we think of. So if people around us or the company usually I am having, it would depend a lot, because as we are all evolving and not yet, as was said in the beginning, Buddha's radiating light, we need certain amount of protection. A Buddha can be with Angulimal and maybe take him towards light, but we are in such a kind of precarious situation that most of the times our balance can get really, we get into imbalance. So that's why it is for us that the company is so important. And again, we were discussing earlier that it is also the company of thoughts and feelings. That's also my closest company. And we can't ignore that. And then we can also share that, like, people do work with prisoners, or, in the middle of maybe people who are psychologically maybe not well, but then they need to have such kind of a solidity within, that they would not be imbalanced or get unbalanced by whatever is going around them. So before we reach that stage, it's very important that we choose the right kind of company which gives us that solidity and integrity and stability, rather than distracting us most of the time, which we are anyways distracted, and that company would add on to that distraction. So better to have something, and company of scriptures, company of what I am watching on social media, company of what I am listening to. Everything impacts at this stage of my life, everything impacts. So we, company of what kind of pictures are displayed in my home, that also is a kind of a company. Everything stimulates something, so better it stimulate something good, which provides me strength.
I when I read this, even though we are not Buddhas radiating light, and I'm sure Jetsunmala said it in, of course, she's explaining, she's trying to explain something that even though we're not reached there yet, it's like you said, we're all evolving. But for myself, I always I think Thich Nhat Hanh used this phrase, which I really like about we are not full-time Buddhas, but we all can be part-time Buddhas. And we are part-time Buddhas. So rather than for me, and then focusing what I'm not, it's always helpful to see what I am. So it's like, okay, the journey is to become mother's child completely. But maybe at least, like you said, at least in some moments, creating that kind of pocket where we are part-time doing that. Right now, I'm ready for part-time work. Of course, when the aspiration grows, I'll completely do this full-time. So one thing was that I think we all are, even though somebody who's completely taken over by Asuric tendencies, I still feel that in a day, for a second, he is still a part-time Buddha, because without that, one cannot exist. You cannot really exist without that. So something that, and the other thing was about this was so that, like what you were talking about, what we watch and what we do is so important. And for the longest time, I remember I kept, there was, thoughts of guilt that, oh goodness, I'm still doing this, because I remember I used to love watching thrillers, for good 5 6 years. I developed this idea of watching thriller, and you know it influences you, right? That kind of restlessness that you build up during watching thrillers and movies. You just feel, oh, it's just for some time and then I can do my meditation, but it follows you throughout the day. And I used to feel, but every time I used to see on Netflix there is some thriller, I used to feel like, oh, I should watch it. A part of me knew it's not right, especially. So a good example from my own thing was that how I did not really shun it away. If it's there, I would acknowledge, and if it's so much that I want to I want to really watch it, I'll still watch it. But I used to, speak to the mother, or even Thich Nhat Hanh says that what you feed into your consciousness will really determine. I knew about all those things, and slowly I remember it came a time, just I was really surprised that I did not feel like watching it. I did not do anything, so there was no effort in that. And it so happened that because I started reading other scriptures, or attending like satsang with all of you, or all of these things, that tendency automatically went away. So that was really like what Dijima says, that if you keep good company, it will really change you. So the importance of having good friends and watching this thing. So you don't have to make effort. And I remember a few weeks ago there was we were watching a movie. It was a thriller, best, acclaimed or something. My partner put in, and I said, okay, he's saying so much. Every time he keeps saying, I don't want for his happiness, we'll watch. And he put it. But even after 10 minutes, my consciousness was so heavy, as if somebody is stabbing it. Literally, I felt like somebody is stabbing, because it started with a very and I said, I cannot do it anymore. I literally said that, listen, I'm so sorry, but I cannot watch this. And I was so surprised before sleeping. I said, but I was the one who was binge watching this. I mean, that thing about, like, I resonated with what she said, that how with effortlessly all these things wean away if we cultivate good company, if we read scriptures. So yeah, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think in one of the talks, discourses by Rupert Spira, he was sharing with someone. There was an audience in front and he was talking with them. He was sharing that if anything in the world is more interesting to you than what we are talking about right now, then you should not be here. You should be actually there. So, that's true renunciation. That one is that I want to be there, but I think this is important for me, so let me listen to it, which again may have its right place. And the other is that if actually something attracts me more than being with the mother, being silent, or maybe doing whatever brings joy and true delight, then I must be there, because it's very important to live it through. It's very important, because that will haunt us. So if I'm wanting to watch a thriller, just taking that example since you shared, I must do it as much as I want, because anything in this life, any material person or thing or movie or anything, any addiction, it cannot satisfy us, the satisfaction that we are wanting. We are wanting the ultimate thrill, and that is the thrill that is waiting for us, which we need some time to really come to. So many people are very attracted to these, what we call as bungee jumping, paragliding. They feel a sense of liberation there, that wow. And it is actually a distortion of that inherent want, that you are here for adventure. We are here for adventure only. We are here for that mukti that you feel, when you are jumping from the air. You feel a kind of a liberation, that okay, you don't bother about what is going to happen next moment. You may die, but you still want to do that. So we are born for that. But how it comes out is that we then want to explore these kind of things which give us that feeling, which will actually ultimately come when we embark upon this adventure of self realization. And these are all, I think everything has a proper place. Thrillers or bungee jumping and everything, they have their proper place, because then after some time living them through, we question that what am I seeking through that. Why does it thrill me? It may not happen in this very lifetime, but whenever it happens, that why am I addicted? What do I get watching these things or jumping from a cliff? you know and then maybe something opens up. So yeah, things have their right place. Yeah, so anything more here? I can put up the thing again. So this was just the first paragraph that we were reflecting upon. And also this thing is very powerful, that people who may be called for us benefiting company or beneficial company, they may not be knowing any master. They may not know Sri Aurobindo, they may not know Mother, they may not read Life Divine. It doesn't matter. But what matters is the simplicity of mind and heart. Once I remember in Pondicherry, there was this lady who looked like as if she may not even have its proper home, just maybe living on the streets. And then in the hall where we had the seminar or conference, she came in the morning. Every morning she would come, brought some flowers, fresh flowers, because there's really good flowers there around. And there was picture of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and she would do her pranam and put some flowers, take a round, and then go away. Devotion, true devotion. She may not read synthesis of yoga, she may not have big words like what we read, no intellectual understanding, but heart is pure and simple. So it helps us when we are with people who are simple and uncomplicated, just like little children. That's why many people like to be around little children. They like their company. Innocence is there, no manipulation at very young age, at least. Then we are there to spoil them. But before that, yeah. Yeah, anything more? Anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, this also reminds me of, the talk we have discussed it often, that Dr. Anand Reddy had given a Gnostic center in which he had basically graphed, not in the sense, spoken about the evolution of integral yoga, as in, how it started, what was important, then this and this, then, rejection, surrender, whatever. And now he was like, now the only thing that is being told to us is love the mother, right? Like simply, like, and when we are in company of people who claim to be, again, like you said, I've read Savitri 4 times, or I've read for anything, like जिसे बोलते हैं I don't even know what to say, scholarly or how much they have. And there's something like just talking about myself that one at times feels that, oh God, you know nothing. You have done nothing. And then, but a voice comes, but I love the mother. And suddenly it's like that strength that I need to be there in my solidity, solidarity, not for anybody else, but I have the right, I have the comfort, I have the strength, the entitlement to be right here where I am because I love the mother. Okay, not read this, don't know this. And it doesn't matter. Like it's like you again, how we were yesterday talking about reason, that how those things come. And then but there's this reason, but I love or I have faith or I have fortitude. And you see that जैसे होता है ना एक रामबाण के everything has the potential of getting, yeah, yeah, like till it revives again some other time. But
Monica, ma'am, when you said that um, if you want to be there, you cannot be here. Trust me, I'm working right now, but I 100% want to be in this meeting only. 'Cause I want to hear everything. I want to. That being said, what Nandini just shared, no, I'm also going through a similar phase where I had been unknowingly, I was late to join Instagram. So uh, I always thought, it's too addictive. And then somehow I joined it. And then those videos, those short clips keep on coming and coming and coming. And I was spending hours together, looking at, there were some, food related clips. There were some the clips about Bhagavad Gita and then the kids playing and all that. And at one point, no, when my cup was becoming empty, I was filling it with additional things unnecessary, some of them. uh, so it's still, I'm not saying I am not doing it anymore, I'm still doing it, but the guard outside my fort right now, he is now a little bit more trained than he used to be. So he is now able to recognize what is coming better than what he would have done, let's say 6 months ago. So now, even though I'm watching it, I can realize that it's a dopamine effect in my head, and I want more and more and more. So now I'm able to kind of limit it, or at least I'm able to tell myself that okay, it's getting out of hand. So kind of stop yourself. But that's my progress so far. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think somewhere we read a quote where it says that the biggest problem with man is that he cannot stand his own company. And I think that's where we need to work, because all of us, what you were sharing, all of us have certain addictions which allow us to distract ourselves from solitude that we get, because we don't know what to do with that solitude. And just to know that actually I don't need to do anything with solitude, I just have to be with it. That takes some time, and in relative degrees, as you were sharing, that slowly, as our time comes, we become comfortable with actually just doing nothing, thinking of nothing, maybe at times thinking of nothing, feeling nothing, and not actively engaging in any task, because that gives us a lot of solidity. When we can stand our own company, just that beingness that we are, that itself is enough. So slowly, I think in degrees, we more and more, like if you sit in meditation, you will see that if 2 3 minutes, maybe we start with 2 3 minutes, and then maybe 5 minutes, and then maybe you are able to sit for complete stillness, maybe 10 minutes, being still in the body, still in the mind, still in the feelings. You will see that since mind, body, and life are not used to it, you will very soon feel the need to move. or think or maybe feel about somebody. Why? Because we are not used to that. And this is what we have to slowly, those of us who are really inclined, we have to increase it in degrees. The ability to just be so solid and marble still, as comes with Mother and Sri Aurobindo, still like a marble, solid like a marble. And to actually persevere in that stillness, so that slowly that stillness can give rise to something which again eventually comes, greater light or greater knowing. It will come. It's not a blank empty stillness, that it just appears for some time. And Sri Aurobindo says that you can't hold that stillness, because for the mind who is habituated to thinking and feeling, it appears like it becomes nervous, that oh my god, oh my god. You would have experienced when two people are meeting. This is very common with us when two people meet. It's very rare that two people can be there together, sitting together, not going away, yet saying the okay, meeting over, in stillness. Very, very rare. We feel an urge to talk. कि बड़ा अजीब लग रहा है, स्टिल कैसे बैठे हैं कुछ आ क्यों नहीं रहा, अच्छा चल मम्मी ठीक है, पापा ठीक है, so we can't stand, because we can't stand our own stillness, so we can't give each other company in stillness, which is actually a very beautiful and a rare thing if it happens. Yeah, so just wanted to put a word to that. Yes, Deepa, please go ahead.
So I had this question. I was just talking to my friend the other day. She's still working, and I moved countries, so I'm not working right now. And she was saying how busy our lives are. For example, like even when on a weekday it's so packed for her, she goes in the morning, comes back in the evening, then the kitchen work, then the kids. And she says even on the weekend when she gets a holiday, and if she has like a few hours to herself, she's thinking about, okay, let me do the paint job and let me do this. And when I was listening to her, I could completely understand. I could hear her, because I used to do the same thing. So I would get up at 5 a.m., sleep at 11 p.m., and the whole day is busy. If the work is done, then I look out for more projects to fill up. And there used to be a certain guilt to just sit down and do nothing. So under these circumstances, these fillers that we do constantly, it may not be necessarily TV, or it may be a much more meaningful work. Is that also some kind of addiction where we feel guilty to just sit there and watch the world move around?
So here I feel it's good that you shared this, because it's like a little complicated, because we are complicated, we make it complicated. So the thing with doing nothing, why it becomes dangerous for people like us, because very soon we fall into inertia. In our consciousness, which is an ignorant consciousness, peace degrades itself into inertia very soon. We would not even realize. And we would say that, see, I'm so comfortable with myself. Wow. But actually, this is inertia. Who knows? So that is why they say to take refuge in three things, three jewels: Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Because this prevents us from falling or degrading ourselves into the tamas, the inertia, which may be also appearing like peace. There is a lot of difference between the peace that comes from above, like a descent from higher uh, consciousness, and the peace of inertia. There is a lot of difference. It's an active peace. But the peace of inertia is like, oh, you are so self-satisfied. Now, again, this can get it's like a dangerous zone. We are standing on the threshold. In the other peace, also, you are very contented. But there is an active aspiration, and that is why we again and again with Mother Sri Aurobindo, we talk of active aspiration. Because self-satisfaction is an obstacle on our path. We don't have enough life. See, we don't know. It's said that human life is 80-90 years, but of course we don't know how much years we have. Now, the time that we have, whatever limited time we have, the task that masters say is there for human birth is to know ourselves. gradually in more and more relative greater degrees. How much do I know myself? How can I have time to loiter around? Is my work over? Can I really say to myself with confirmed, thing that yes, I am in touch with my soul consciousness? No, I can't. So then where is the time to waste? So this thing of doing nothing, it has its proper place, but then we also have to see there are other things around. Take refuge where? Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Because that will prevent us to, again, when we fall into inertia, it will warn us that, see, it's not peace from above, it is inertia. Get up, wake up. So it's a very, to me, it appears that it's a dangerous zone, because we are really very ignorant, and our peace mostly can be a peace full of inertia. And no progress is happening. We are just too self-satisfied. No real realization is there of myself. So again, it is up to me to become doubtful. Here, doubt helps. Doubt helps here, that I begin to doubt myself. Am I falling into inertia? Or can I get up at 4 a.m. in the morning if there is a important session about whatever, knowing myself, that I have to attend? Is that possible? So challenging ourselves, questioning ourselves. So I feel that we need to have this balance, because we fall into really precarious zones and we won't even know. So that's why reading these words of Mother Sri Aurobindo, Heroic Heart, what we are reading, it helps us. It gives us that company where we can check, oh, this is what, maybe I'm falling into inertia, I have to be careful. So yeah, that's what I would say. And please, yeah, people are welcome reflections, if any.
I think in with Taru, when we were discussing in the Harmony Circle, we were talking about stillness, creating the stillness, and I think it was discussed in both, and keeping the cup empty as well. And that we are so prone to getting influenced, that that stillness cannot seep in, because we will, if we have free time, because we are habituated, we will talk to a friend, we will gossip, do this, and happens with me as well, like, because I love talking, I can go into that zone where I can easily slip. Happens with everybody, I feel. And like, one of the things that somebody asked, that how can we really, what are the ways of understanding ourselves, and training ourselves to be still. And like, I felt that when we are free, it's always good, like, to have a good aim for yourself. And it is different from how we see of compulsorily doing something, because that habit, that I have to keep engaging in doing this, that's different, because it's more restlessness. But keeping an aim, for example, learning a new instrument, like, keep don't stop, keep learning, but that learning will come from a different sphere. It will not be from a sphere of restlessness, of clinging, of this and that, but from the fear of, oh, I want to really know the divine in so many ways. So for example, I felt like learning a new instrument had helped me personally a lot, with pain, grief, with emotional, it, because it gave me something, and I tried it, it took me towards higher. Alokda says poetry, I think Shorbindo, he quotes Shorbindo saying that poetry, art, poetry is the one that uplifts our consciousness, art refines it, and there was one music, and music deepens it. So kind of what you were saying, that differentiating between the two of these compulsorily, when we are driven by this capitalist notion of always doing something, spending something, shopping, this and that. On the other hand, finding ways that really takes us towards the divine, and we can always find, like, for me, I can always feel it when I'm doing it, which takes me away from that center, or something that brings me closer. And if we are busy doing things that really brings us closer to the center, like, I remember I had a meeting yesterday, very important meeting, but I so much wanted to attend that session that I made sure that I attend half of this session and half of that meeting, because that meeting was not very important that I wanted to attend, but I had to do it because it was just a duty I had to follow. So I didn't attend half of it, even though they might say I came late, because I did not want to, because I thought this session will enrich my soul more. So I mean, I feel that we should definitely have hobbies. Otherwise, we will be lost. We'll go in inertia. We'll keep gossiping. We'll do something that connects us to that stillness, like that. So I thought of that. We art, like knitting is very, like, for me, or music is very good. Writing poetry, something like Thai do calligraphy so well. Mother used to play music so much, and she used to say, Have as many hobbies as you can." That's why in ashram I see that so many things available.
Yeah, you got muted. Yeah.
And I feel you don't grow old. That's very good as well. You don't feel, oh, I'm old. You're always doing something all the time, like something that again deepens your consciousness. So you're always young, learning to new things, learning a language or something else.
Yeah, thank you. You were saying something about speech, talking a lot. I think that's also a very good topic of discussion. We can talk about talking a lot because it's like, it's in talking, there is a lot of dispersion of energies. And it's almost for those of us who do talk more, it's actually a very good challenge to gather that energy which goes out again and again in incessant talking, uh, and almost kind of a tapasya. Tap is that gathering, that restless energies which go out through talking. Again, when it is important, necessary, of course, things would be said. But then there are many, many things where we can actually live without communicating through words. So that gathers the consciousness. It is like a tapasya that you are doing. And with that energy which gets gathered, that can be used to have a deeper connect with ourselves, which we rarely have. So yeah, it's a very good practice to see which word to use. Maybe let go of, maybe you're thinking, and saying that, okay, I can live without saying that, so let it go. So Sri Aurobindo says that we have to be cautious of two extremes. Like one is, oh, I would not talk today, and the other is that blah 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 blah. So he said that there is a big paragraph on speech where he says that speech has to be very effective, and only those words must be used which are effective and which invoke something. Otherwise, we have to let go of all that unnecessary fringe portion of that speech, which actually we use but is not required. It takes time, it takes time, but if one wants, it's a very good challenge to, yeah, take up. Yeah, there is tapasya of, I think, somewhere there is a, like we shared last many months ago, we had shared like this big paragraph on speech, which I think very, very beneficial. Yeah. And then the moment you read that paragraph, it's like मुंह बंद हो जाता है, कि कितना बोलते हैं. वो अलग बात है कि सिर्फ एक दिन के लिए बंद होगा, ज्यादा दिन के लिए नहीं. But even people who do मौन व्रत, for example, I think it's a good experiment, because when we are doing that मौन व्रत, then we begin to become conscious of what inside chatter that goes on even when we are not speaking outside. So one becomes conscious of that. It's really interesting. So this is the adventure, we were talking in the beginning of thrill and adventure. It's a nice adventure, journeying within. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, anything more here? So I think, yeah, we didn't go to the next one. Yeah, if there is any reflection, please share, else we'll read the next paragraph.
Yeah, going back to the discussion, actually, I'm sorry, but there's something that's coming. When Deepa was sharing, it, when we say we're seeing Mahabharat on TV, for example, and that, the main person is, it's like, I don't know, standing with a sword and he's fighting. Suddenly, how it shows that there is so much chaos, and yet around that warrior, there is a complete stillness. It's like he cannot see, hear anything except the one he's fighting. And so there is a lot of peace in action. And can there be action in peace? Right? So that's I think it's a very beautiful thing, that when I think of action, I feel it lacks peace. Peace cannot be action. And when I think of action, like whatever, vice versa. So just this thought that when truly a good action, a big action is being taken, it comes from a place of peace that originates from stillness. And when we are still, it doesn't mean there's no action outside. Just wanted to say that, because there is this misconception that we live with, right? That they are mutually exclusive. That if I'm doing things, say like she was talking about projects, right, Deepa? Then that means the peace is not there or the mindfulness is not there. But that's not how it can be. It can be both together. Just you can share it again. This screen share.
I can read the paragraph. So is it just the one or till yes? Is it till poison or is it till yes?
Yeah, it's we don't know actually. You just start and we'll see. You start from
Okay.
we should be careful. Let's see.
We should be careful of people who may appear to be nice and friendly, but have values that are wrong for us. People who are only thinking about money, physical comfort, food, or intimate relationships might be charming, but we have to be careful. We are like tiny saplings that need protection from strong winds that can come along and destroy them. This process has to be nurtured, protected, and fertilized. If we start spraying it with noxious chemicals, then it's finished. These negative ideas and thoughts are like poison.
Yeah, maybe you can take and finish until the big yes.
Okay. Sometimes it might look like the fruit is big and beautiful, but actually it has no taste and it's lifeless inside. At the nunnery, we test our food with a pendulum. Of course, coffee and sugar and so on were negative, but we also tested the apples and oranges and carrots. For the big, beautiful looking carrots that are either no movement or it swung in slightly negative direction. Then when we tried some organic products, the pendulum swung around enthusiastically in a big yes.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, we can take reflections here on these two paragraphs. I think there is something that we need to maybe remind ourselves, that these are 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. So maybe it may not resonate with everyone. We have to see. Not in every phase of life we may be able to resonate with these paragraphs, but we think that since we are inclined to join these sessions, that something of a budding Bodhisattva must be there in us. That's why we are here today. So to those people who would like to have a life which is genuine, transparent, uplifted more and more towards knowing our true consciousness, so to them it is said this, people who are only thinking about money, physical comfort, food, or intimate relationships, they may look charming, those people, very attractive, glittery, but we have to be careful. We means people who want to be on the path, who right now don't feel inclined. To them it cannot be said, because then they need their experiences. Yeah.
I'd like to share something from my own experience. Has been that when I reflect on, relationships, past, present, I've noticed that the ones that came on very quickly or developed very quickly and very strong had a lot of red flags. And it was like almost like an adrenaline rush. It's like you are just sort of high on something and it's all heady and addictive. But the ones that took time to progress and evolved over a period of time, for me, those have been those most meaningful relationships. And that can be sustainable or sustained over a period of time. So I think where I'm coming from is that, so if I reflect inward, I've noticed that why did I maybe gravitate or have these kind of very heady relationships? Was there something that I was looking at filling externally? Was there a validation that I was seeking externally? And that's why I gravitated towards these people or this situation. And then I think with that ongoing inner work, I found a lot of peace and things that I can first maybe work on myself and, fulfill, so that it's almost like the analogy of that, the cup, right? Like you can't pour from an empty cup. So let me have my cup, like let me I won't say fill it totally. I will fill it maybe 80% and have the 20% for other things. So those things have worked for me. And I like the way that I can work on myself, and then maybe I can have better relationships, be there in a better way for other people, as well as attract better people towards me, just with the energy that maybe I'm emanating from inwards.
Yeah, thank you.
Ma'am, can you explain the second paragraph? I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, this one,
Please.
this pendulum thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is a field of science, you can check it up. It's called kinesiology. Kinesiology. I read, the spelling may be wrong. I read about it very many years ago, but it was very enchanting, and I'm glad that this came up. I didn't know that it is here, where they test your muscular strength. Like, for example, they place a word in front of you. The word may be Buddha, or the word may be hate. And then somehow they test the muscular strength when you read that word or maybe pick up that card. And they discovered, this field of science, they discovered that these words and symbols and whatever, like organically grown vegetables and with pesticides, they have their energy. We can't deny that they don't have their energy. So that's what I think Jetsunma was sharing here, that the hybrid carrots, which are big, and non-organically grown and hybrid seeds, they have, the pendulum did not move, and with coffee and sugar, they were like lower in energy, for example, rather than raw fruits and like vegetables which are grown grounded and organic. So that's what I could fathom from here, whatever we read, but it reminded me of that branch of science, kinesiology, and it says that even thoughts and whatever words that we are reading, it has an impact. And that is why when even now in India, when people are pregnant, it is said that, oh, read Bhagavad Gita, or read this Ramayana or whatever. I don't know Ramayana, but people say that read good things, and look at good pictures. If you have seen, like maybe good, look at picture of Krishna or maybe Ram, or so that that affects, because we are like sponges. So nobody would like to see the picture of Ravan, no matter how gyani he was, when one is pregnant. We won't want that. So yeah. So something like that, I feel that's what is the reference here, that each thing has their own energy, basically. So we must be cautious of that energy because we are taking that in. Yeah.
And I think it's also like, all that glitter is not gold, right? The hybrid seeds, the vegetables that come out with all the sprays and everything, even the cereals, which have like listed around 60 chemicals. If you look at the ingredients, they look like wow. That, oh my God, it's so fresh, so it's like it was abhi. And yet, because of the way it is being done, so it's just, I guess, a symbolism, like it was saying, that how it feels or it appears that somebody's trying to give you good advice, or they are saying कि तेरा हित ही तो चाहता हूँ मैं, तभी तो बोल रहा हूँ ये कर ले. But just because things appear to be nice, but if they are not feeling good inside, if something is telling me that नहीं, मतलब logically तो ठीक होना चाहिए, but I'm not in agreement with this. That inner pendulum is not agreeing, for example. So all that glitter is not gold. All that looks is not looks good and bright. But if it's unorganic, for example, inorganic and full of pesticides, it would do me harm when I consume it. So be careful. Just open your eyes and see, more than your eyes rather, right? We keep touching the essence of things.
Yeah, yeah. And we have to see that to whom it is taught. These things are said to whom, because again there are variations. Like when you were sharing, it reminded me that, for example, hashish or marijuana, it has a severe effect on us. Our consciousness gets altered. But then we have example of masters who consumed marijuana like that and nothing happens. But we are not that. We have to see where we are. We are like sponges, and that is why we get influenced with everything that we interact with. So we have to be careful. Unless and until we reach that stage that these things don't make an effect, but that solidity is not there. So that is why, yeah, this reference of being careful. Yeah. Like a saint may go into the company of a sinner and turn that sinner into a saint. But I, am in such a position that I may go into company of a sinner and become a sinner myself. Not saying that, we all are sinners actually, but just like going by the little example of it. So better, that's why they say Kabir Sangat Sadhu ki kate koti aparadh, एक घड़ी आधी घड़ी आधी में पुनियाद. So they say that अगर एक घड़ी स्पेंड नहीं कर सकते साधु के साथ, तो चलो आधी कर लो. अच्छा, आधी का भी टाइम नहीं है, चलो आधी की भी आधी कर लो. कबीर संगत साधु की फर्स्ट लाइन इज एक घड़ी आधी में पुनियाद. इतनी भी बहुत है, लाइक ड्रॉप ऑफ इत्र, दिस परफ्यूम. कबीर संगत साधु की कटे कोटि अपराध. बिकॉज वो जो मोमेंट जिसमें मैं साधु की संगत में नहीं हूं, वहां पे एक्चुअली मैं अपराधी हूं ना, because I'm totally in the forest of thoughts and feelings which are taking away from my true consciousness. That is the biggest sin I do. Every day I do that. We are all sinners. But when I am in the company of a saint or words of masters, mystics, then, as if what Nandini was earlier sharing, that something that I do or read which brings me back to myself. So वो अपराध कट जाता है as if आपका. Yeah. Good one. Yeah. I think we all have a discernment within us where we can actually sense if we go by that inner compass. It tells us which company, even outwardly looking sadhu person, but it somewhere we feel to go by that gut feeling, as they say. It tells us something. Yeah.
On that note, I have a question, and also maybe a question in form of a reflection. It can be because I somehow feel that what maybe Jetsunma is saying is that we should stop chasing. We should stop actually chasing for the company of people who are, who live just from the appearances. There is no connection with the soul or with the psychic self. But sometimes I find myself in a position where I cannot run away from the misery, or from the small, shouldn't use smallness, but we all, even I have, from the smallness of my near dear ones. It could be my friend, it could be my relative, who are living in that space, yet I have to share that same space. So it's not that I'm chasing, but just because I have that connection, I have had friends who are into that state, and I was one amongst them as well. But now, by the grace of God, I have moved towards a different light. So I shouldn't, I think it is equally selfish where I just say, okay, let them be in dirt. Now I want to be a lotus, right? So in that sense, I somehow feel, because I did it for a long time, I said, oh no, I don't want to meet that friend. Even though she was really, trying to check upon me or trying to meet me, but no, I don't want that. Oh, I shouldn't actually go meet those relatives for a long period of time. But then something in me told me that, isn't this selfish? Okay, I'm not chasing. But why can't I be that compassionate space? Maybe they're looking for it. Maybe that's why they want to talk, but they don't know the way. But also preparing ourselves, at least creating that much of solidity to just listen, if just be there at that space. And if we ask the grace to protect us, it will. It is just on our aspiration. I mean, distinguishing where you're not chasing after these things. I think what Jisunda is saying, that you shouldn't do that, but at the same time, when you are needed to be that, that space of solidity. Otherwise, how will we bring, like today I read that quote by the mother, it was beautiful, that it's not running away from the world will bring the change, it's being here, working, toiling modestly, that we can bring the change. So also aspiring for that, that may the realization not come only in me, but in everybody. So, like, iska bhi haath, uska bhi haath, sabka haath, like whatever way I can do it, and creating an aspiring high that give me that solidity I don't have. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I just open to reflection, but I somehow feel like that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Again, I think, as they say, truth is not a formula. So Mother also says all kind of innumerable, various kind of experiences we need to go through to find where we want to be. And if something calls, if a relative has been calling and I've not been attending, and if that is calling my attention, one thing is that it doesn't bother me. It's like I'm in my own space and like nothing doing, and I feel that no, I'm not needed there. But if you feel a call that no, I need to maybe attend to something and go and check out, test the waters myself, we must. Why not? And then we have our own experience, whether we should have gone, not gone, participated, not participated. Yeah, so yes, I think we need to have all these experiences. Yeah. Yeah, work in progress, exactly. Mm. Okay, so anything more here? Anyone, these two paragraphs that we read?
When I read that word pendulum, I thought it's a kind of a weight scale that is physical weight scale that will weigh things. I was thinking, well, like, how can a hybrid carrot, which is so big, uh, not move the pendulum? Then you told me about this. What is that? Uh, yeah, it's called kinesiology. I'm going to read it. It's still a little confusing to me on how it works, but um, pretty sure it's not the regular pendulum. It's something different. So quite interesting.
Yeah. It's very commonsensical also. If you think about it, the moment anyone, if we are connected with the mother, the moment I think of the mother, being close to the mother, doesn't it give us strength? No, it does. And the moment we think of all the dark and shadowy things, it makes us weaker. It disempowers us. And that is what scientists have been able to do research on it and practically see that yes, even the muscle strength changes when you connect with these words, which are either empowering, disempowering. So yes, that's about that. So let us maybe bring it to close. This verse 5, the last para is here in front of us. Anyone who would like to read, please go ahead.
I'll read it now. So even some things that look outwardly fine actually have no essence, they have no value. Outer beauty, but nothing inside. Like roses nowadays, they look beautiful, but have no scent. Like those gourmet carrots that look beautiful, but have no taste and no nutrition. Likewise, we should be discriminating with the company we habitually keep, because we can be in a group where people look good and prosperous. Everything everything's going okay on the outside, but then actually inside there is nothing. Of course, we should be friendly to everybody, not heavily judgmental, but discerning, because we are easily influenced. We should strive to be affected by what is good and worthwhile. This brings us to verse 6 on spiritual teachers. Ma'am, it's like that. It's like that Amir Khan movie example that you gave. Where Rani Mukherjee is on that top floor, and he tells her that I thought everybody up there is happy, but now I see that you are crying. It's very different.
I loved what you spoke earlier about discernment. I think, because there are so many choices and we wouldn't know until we reach that level of solidity. So since we are work in progress and we are humans, and it's very natural to be attracted by something that looks so attractive, but I think this thing of discernment and the company that we choose to keep, that can keep us grounded. And because we are exposing, personally for me, I make a conscious effort as much as I can to attend these kind of spiritual classes, because it just keeps me grounded. I love this because it's helping me to be a better human being. So I can make that choice. Where do I want to go in life? So I have the choices, right? I have the other choices too. I have this choice too. So you know how they talk about you are the sum of the 5 people that you mostly hang out with in the whole day. So if I keep that kind of company, no matter how I am, it might be challenging at times not to become like one of them, like Nandini was mentioning, right? Like, it's so difficult to stay in that. Maybe it's peer pressure. Maybe you don't want to be, judged by others. So you just do it. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it. But if you keep yourself, which is very challenging, and requires a lot of discipline to be grounded, to be and seek that kind of company that's going to be good for you. And earlier this morning, I was watching a video about Rumi and some life lessons, where they said that, some people might be like that beautiful vase, that expensive Ming vase, but it looks so beautiful and expensive, but it's hollow inside. It's empty inside. So that's where we can, maybe use our choices and our discerning quality, that how is this going to help me? Is this going to help me? What's happening? That's what I'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So this aspect of differentiating, there is one thing which is judgmental, being judgmental, and then there is another thing which is discernment, which you were talking of. So whatever I know will benefit me truly, that is what we must pick, now that we know that we have a choice, as much as we can. Yeah, anything more here, anyone, before we come towards the end?
I think, in the last paragraph, somehow the essence of, like we say, midlife crisis, right? That why do we reach that point? Because all the things that we think would give me something, they are hollow, right? I might be hanging with the coolest people, going to the coolest bars, and yet when I'm sitting with myself, nothing is there. Like there's nothing I feel. So just that aspect, that we push ourselves to those places because we are not discerning, we are not mindful, and we are not checking that, is this adding something? Is this something I want? And I'm just following the crowd, doing the things that appear to sound or look good. And yet, a lot of those things are hollow. So now that I know, I can use more discernment, I can be more mindful and choose. Yeah. Thanks.
And knowing that even now we will be choosing wrongly at times, because there is a momentum to our habits and patterns. But at least what we were maybe talking in the last session yesterday, day before yesterday, that we'll not be able to really enjoy it. Something will be missing, and that will propel us further and further towards making more right kind of choices. Yeah. So shall we end here? Any last comments, anyone? So maybe we'll take the verse 6 next time. Not a good idea to start today. Yeah, anyone?
Yes, ma'am. One thing I will share. Emotional excitement and supreme love. They are totally different from each other. And outside world, we are always excited and emotionally we are attached to everything. But supreme love is totally different thing. When we are inside, there is silence and there is love. Because that last session where you told that ordinary life first started sweetness and then bitterness, and spiritual life there is started with bitterness and we are going with, that is supreme love. Yes, beautiful session, I enjoyed it today.
Yeah, thank you. And Sri Aurobindo says that we are usually accustomed thinking that the emotional excitement is what love is. We are accustomed to that, and all the Bollywood movies and everything, they also portray that only, you know. But as I was sharing in some session, that people who are truly, truly loving, not mushy, mushy loving, but truly loving, they actually don't even know that they are loving. And they may feel that I am very neutral or cold or indifferent. So that kind of what you were sharing, Saraswati ji, that true love actually we have no idea of. We only know excitement and emotional, you know, this intense vibration of emotions. That's what we mistake it as love. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone?
Just wanted to say on that I definitely agree with that you know outer expressions can be very different from the inner side, but very like my experience. But I still feel like personally, like very personal, that I always feel that outer expression is also at least for us human beings, it's very empowering. For example, just mother, every time I you know read her letter when she's writing to a sadhak, she, my dear child, lots and lots of love, you know, that thing. Or like, you know, Thai would talk, you know, to disciples saying darling, sweetheart. I mean, that kind of, but not just and just superficially, but internally. And I could definitely agree, because my father is like that, very like he is very loving, but somehow I feel, my god, little bit of love would in that sense, because you're so habituated, maybe I am at least, with the pleasantness and sweetness in speech. So just like my personal thing was there. And that's why I
Yeah.
really like look up to mother. Even the pictures, beaming with smile, beaming, not cold-heartedness. Because even some spiritual teachers, I remember my mother used to watch Tarun, I forgot the name, he's a Jain Muni. And you know, he used to sometimes really, like, he would say some harsh thing and you know, very strictly, and sometimes even shout at it. You know, what are you doing? You don't see this, this. And I would say, my goodness, it doesn't, it's not appealing to me like I would be. You know, it's too harsh for me. So just like softness and humility, like silly again, but I felt that from
I think
mother.
it depends on nature to nature, and this can't be forced. And mother says at one point of time, talking to somebody about love, that in love, we have to respect the expression of others also. So when I'm wanting a certain expression from the other who I may claim to love, it is actually dishonoring that person, because that person is not used to that mushiness that I may be used to or I may actually want. You know, so I think we grow in inner strength when we allow the other to just be, and myself also to be. If I am that outwardly expressive, then I allow myself to be. You know, that again goes well with my swabhava. But for other person's swabhava, it may not go well, and he's very fine with not overtly expressing. So we have to honor that, and we actually learn to honor that, because for a long time we want, and in that we spoil relationships. And then slowly, if it's true, any drop of pure love, true love is there, then we begin to accept that, okay, you know, that other person also has his own way of outer expression, which may appear maybe cold to me, but he's completely allowed to be that, whoever he is. That's actually love, allowing each other to be. And it would very context to context dependent what you were sharing, because it will depend upon each person's inclination. Some people actually don't like that much overt expression. You know, they say, please dur hat, you know, types. Ye kya chal raha hai? There are, you know, people around us only that, what is it going on? You know, are you crazy or what? So my love, my expression of love may be madness for somebody else, so I can't force it on anyone. और जहाँ पे वो जम रहा है वहां पे जम रहा है, ठीक है, you know. But जहाँ जम नहीं रहा वहां पे भी, अब if I continue to overtly डालो myself on the other person, I think then it becomes torture, not love. So yeah, love is the mystery, you know, no one of us. Kabir ji says, प्रेम प्रेम सब कोई कहे, प्रेम ना चीने कोई. अब हमें पता नहीं, हो कहते बोलते तुम रहते हो आई लव यू, बट तुम्हें पता कुछ नहीं है. नो प्रेम प्रेम सब कोई कहे, प्रेम ना चिन्हे कोई, मतलब किसी को पता नहीं है प्रेम क्या है। अघट प्रेम पिंजर बसे और प्रेम कहावे सोए। Boundless love resides in this body, and that is what is love. So we have to come closer to that essence if we want to know love. We actually don't know love, we know only emotions. Yeah, but we will reach, it's our destiny. If not in this lifetime, maybe next, doesn't matter. Yeah. Yes, Ritu. So Ritu has said thumbs up, so we must end then. Yes. So let's take one moment of silence before we end, just sharing, dedicating the merit with all the sentient beings all around, near, far. May we all have our hearts full, content, minds simple, and with lots of joy and progress in our life, and lots of adventure and thrill. We may not miss the thrill, all of us.